Welcome back to the Georgia Show. A little housekeeping before we get going. I will be on the road the next 2 days, so the skiff will not be live. We'll be doing a best of for a couple days while I travel to Beirut, Lebanon, and we'll be doing some live reporting from there, probably for the Sunday show at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Georgia Show. So look forward to that, but I won't be live tomorrow or Friday. But Bill, we have a big show tonight. What do we got going?
Well, we've got a number of things. We're going to talk about some bad acts of the Georgia GOP and some of their leaders, small L. We're going to talk about some things that happened with election integrity and processing. Today, it was a very interesting day in several regards, and we'll talk about that and give some kudos to some folks. And then we're going to go into a little bit of what's going on the national front with regard to the protests. There's some new players emerging that are bringing some really, really neat news. I'm very envious. I wish I was up there being able to out people the way some of these guys are, and we're going to get to show that. And so we want to make sure people are up to speed on what is and is not going on, and that's what we're about tonight.
Excellent. I look forward to it. And just so you know, I'll give a shout out to our sponsors. We'll play some ads later in the show. But please, if you haven't done it yet, sign up for our no ad subscriptions. The way you do that is you go to my.cdm.press. That's my.cdm.press. And you can put your credit card information in. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. Most people just do 100. They forget about it till the next year. So we really appreciate that. It helps us. We have some major expenses. We've got IT expenses. We've got reporter expenses. We've got travel, all kind of stuff, legal. So please support us in that way. If you haven't done so, please consider doing that. And it would be very, very helpful to us. It helps us count on revenue every month. Well, Bill, this is a packed show. I'm going to let you get right to it.
Okay, sounds good. So as I talk to folks by phone, in meetings and so forth, and in get-togethers around the state, I keep hearing the same question over and over and over again, because they're watching what Trump is doing elsewhere in the country, and yet they know we've got so many issues here because we're, as we've said so many times, we're the epicenter of many of these problems. And so we keep hearing the question, does Trump and his team know what's going on here in Georgia? And I think the answer we will find in time is yes. He knows quite well what's going on here for many reasons. One, because Georgia was noted as one of the places that had issues because of his personal experience with Raffensperger and Raffensperger's team, and because he's gotten direct feedback from many people in Georgia over and over and over again through various means, not just online, but through personal contact, I believe. So we will see what comes of this, but I guess we'll show you some things that are happening that seem to indicate he's got a pretty good handle on what's going on. So first thing we're going to talk about tonight is a story that we brought out, or brought out part of it last week or the week before, and that is the story of Mr. Dennis Futch and a resolution that he put forth during the recent state committee meeting of the Georgia GOP. Now, I'm not relying on my personal knowledge of the resolution. I'm actually getting it from online sources that have posted it in Twitter and elsewhere. So it called out a number of things, but Mr. Futch apparently was quite upset by some stuff. And so we wanted to show what he was calling for. And if you want to learn more, you're welcome to go to the Georgia Record and look up that article, and you'll be able to go through everything. Here's the beginning of the resolution. Resolution to permanently expel and ban all individuals who fraudulently disputed or charged back Georgia Republican Party convention payments, and to ban David Cross for life for directing said conduct. Very interesting. Pretty strong language there. And we won't go through all the whereases in this resolution, but we'll call out a couple of them. But essentially what this is about is following the Georgia State Convention of the Georgia GOP. Many people felt that in lots of ways, the entire process was manipulated. Many things appeared to have been rigged. For example, you couldn't get to the microphones because people were standing there blocking your access. We saw a number of people that were making fun of folks that were complaining about access to the mics and just acting like children or worse. And it was very, very unnerving for many folks, and they felt like they really didn't get what they had paid for. And so a number of folks, I don't know quite how many, but a number went back to their credit card companies and disputed the charges for the cost of the convention. They didn't get to do what they were set out to do. They didn't get to participate. They felt that many things were manipulative, and they didn't want to pay for it, and so they disputed the charge. That then went back, and they apparently the credit card companies charged the Republican Party back, and that is what Mr. Futch is complaining about. Very interesting, and very takes this very seriously. Obviously, he's claiming that something's been fraudulent in all of this. Surprisingly so, but this is, if you recall, this is about the third time, maybe fourth now, that the Georgia GOP, led by Josh McCoon, has attempted to get rid of David Cross. You'll recall that led by Candace Taylor, I think it was back 2 years now, she started talking about the need for David Cross to be removed or expelled or something from the party. And we found out through the work of ourselves at the Georgia Record and the owner of a radio station in southern Georgia that those charges were false. Things that she was saying were untrue. And yet she was saying, I would never lie to you, but here's what I'm saying. And it turned out to be a lie. So this is nothing new. This is something that they've tried to do several times before. And then here is the outcome. So there's whereases throughout this document. And then finally we get to, now therefore be it resolved that the Georgia Republican Party does hereby, 1, condemn in the strongest possible terms any individual who knowingly or negligently initiated or encouraged a false chargeback. Oh boy. Dispute or reversal request against the Georgia GOP or any authorized party vendor related to official party conventions, events, and functions. Gosh. So we're going to go after these people, right? Now recall, too, that at the convention itself, a resolution was put forth and passed that said that the Georgia GOP would not allow Brad Raffensperger to be running in the next election as a Republican. And shortly thereafter, that was adopted by the convention. It was one of the few things that got done to many people's liking. And then Josh McCoon comes out shortly thereafter and says, oh, well, I won't be doing this because we'll just get ourselves in a lawsuit. It's not going to work. Well, the problem is that when you look at the rules of the Georgia GOP, the rules say that when the state convention is in session, it holds the power, the authority of the entire party. And further, elsewhere in the rules, it also says that the chairman does the bidding. He is there to execute essentially the decisions of the state convention, the state committee, and executive committees when each is in session. So the state committee made a decision, and yet Josh McCoon somehow decides that he's going to do something different.
This is the problem we've had with the GOP nationwide, as you know, Bill.
Isn't it interesting that this is playing out here? But you have to understand, authority comes from the rules, and the rules say who has the authority, and yet we're not abiding by that. And you've seen other blogs and posts from the GRA and others questioning why Josh McCoon would take such a step. Now, let's continue on with this resolution for Mr. Futch for just a moment. And I want to draw some parallels. There's a reason why I brought this up in that manner. This is one of the last paragraphs in Mr. Fetch's resolution. Be it finally resolved that the Georgia Republican Party hereby adopts a zero tolerance policy toward any form of financial fraud, deceit, or theft, and declares that those who defraud, conspire to defraud, or direct others to defraud their own party are forever unfit to serve in any capacity now or in the future within the Republican Party of the state of Georgia. Now, I'm going to stop and say we're not charging anybody with committing a crime. We're simply noting what Mr. Fetch put in his resolution, and we're adding our thought here. Uh-oh. If we go back several months, there were a number of charges by Josh McCoon, the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party himself, that showed up on reports actually filed with the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. Some of those, in summary, are personal trainer charges at Alloy Personal Training, clothing at Brooks Brothers, dry cleaning at Let's Cleaners, home decor or personal goods, we don't know what, but something or some things that were purchased at a place called the Painted Nest in Butts County. And best of all, $5,000 in fees to Best Guest Media, who we understand arranges television and other appearances by people. Notably, one of the ranking Republican Party people in the state of Georgia, Amy Kremer, issued a note to McCoon, and I believe she copied a number of members of the executive committee and Karen Henschel and others, asking about these and other charges that nobody seemed to be getting straight answers to. And there were more. And notably, the query never got a response. This goes back to May, I believe it was May 6th. So why would that be? And how does that relate to Mr. Fetch's note here? Zero tolerance policy. Well, I don't know. I guess it paints an interesting picture.
It's the old phrase, karma's a bitch.
So very, very well could be. So here is Mr. Fetch himself. This is a picture apparently at the RNC, and he's the one taking up the left-hand side of the screen there, you can see. And after this exchange, after the state committee meeting that was held a week and a half or so ago, apparently Mr. Fetch took exception to the sheriff in his own county and wrote this note. Now I'm going to have to actually zoom it in on my own screen so that even I can read this. I'm not going to be able to read it all because it's got a lot of expletives in it, but I will read you what I can. This is apparently from Mr. Fetch to, I am told, the sheriff of Colquitt County. You can either help or you can stay away. Don't really care which. We got it either way. You cannot stop this. It's happening. Deal with it. I just talked to the governor. You're dead in the expletive water. Now, tell me what you're going to do so I can do what I need to do. Would you like a call from Donald expletive Trump?
So Mr. Fetch has got Trump on speed dial, is what he's saying.
It sounds like it. Now the question is, is Trump picking up, or is it, hold please? So it's time to stand up and be men, not cowards. If you try and stop our assembly, I will sue you in the county for expletive thing the county owns. I've got 20 million in liquid network, and I've got friends everywhere by me. The lawyers I have make Lester look like a damn janitor. We don't know who Lester is, but we hope he does better work than or more interesting work than just being a janitor. But so this is the kind of leadership that apparently is going on, and is indicative of the tone in the Georgia Republican Party at the moment. It reminds me of something I've said a number of times. that just comes to mind for reasons I can't really explain, and that is an Italian saying, "The fish stinks from the head."
For some reason, and Bill, I'm having visions of what's the movie with oh shoot, the Burt Reynolds and the girl and
Smokey and the Bandit.
yeah, like damn porny heads. You didn't wear your pajamas, you wouldn't be late for work.
I have no verbal response. Okay. Did you want to take a break before we move on
let's
to?
pay some bills. We'll be right back. Got to take care of our sponsors here, so here we go.
Great. I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
Bill, I want to give a shout out to Advisor Metals. They're our gold sponsor. This is a silver round. It's worth about twice as much as it was about a year ago. And if you have assets that you want to protect their value, a long-term store of value, 5,000 years store of value, precious metals could be it. And, you know, the markets have been pretty volatile, kind of going straight up, but they pulled back now. It's probably a really good time to stick your toe in the metals market if you haven't done it in the past, but you can talk to your advisor. But if you go to cdmmetals.com, you can fill out the form and Advisor Metals will contact you, the team there. And I promise you, they're patriots. They're on our side. They're not a high sales pressure situation. We've checked their regulatory background. We've checked all their banking relationships. Highly recommended. And the feedback from customers has been fantastic. So we're moving in some difficult times. We've been right on precious metals since we started recommending this to our audience. Obviously, it depends on your situation, but think about it and give them a call. cdmmetals.com. Back to you, Bill.
Great. Okay, so here in Georgia today, the work and the continued struggle for election integrity was sort of front and center. And so let's bring this up. And today, during hearings regarding the state election board, they actually held a meeting today. There were calls for the chairman, Fervier, to resign. And this comes after, you know, so many times that we've reported the struggles trying to get a hold of information and ballots and investigation into what Joe Rossi and Kevin Moncla and others found going back and into actually 2021. Some of which was actually confirmed at the time by Kemp's own staff and investigators. And yet they continue to apparently struggle to just hide this stuff. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a couple of minutes. But let's listen to Joe Rossi's comments today during the state election board meeting.
I'd like to speak factually and directly to you today. This isn't easy for me to deliver, and it's probably not going to be easy for you to receive. your own actions and your own words before and on the day of 5/7/24 hearing are in clear violation of this board's own rules for a chairman. They're simply unethical. And so I'm here today to call for your immediate resignation. And those are strong words, so let me support it with facts, not a conspiracy. On that day, 5/7/24, with Dr. Johnson seated 4 feet to your left, having done countless hours of research on SEB 2023-25, and in the middle of her serious questioning of the Secretary of State's investigators, you engaged in some text messages with member Jeffries, who was out of town that day in an important state meeting that he had a lot of responsibility for. I'm sympathetic to member Jeffries. He was trying to get in and join the meeting. As a matter of fact, at 2:47:06, member Jeffries texted you. I'll call in if you want me to. At 2:47:31, sir, this is sad for the chairman. You said, I don't think you want to be a part of this. That was the moment of truth for a chairman with leadership. Rather than pausing the meeting to enable member Jeffries to participate, you allowed the meeting, sadly, to continue without him. Moment of truth number 2. Member Jeffries joined that meeting that day later. He apologized for missing it. He had a good excuse. It was an important meeting for him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rossi. 2 minutes is up. It'll be up to the chairman.
Can you let me finish for 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. Instead of, Mr. Jeffries then said, I'd like to bring up another resolution, bring up Dr. Jan's resolution again for a second. Again, a moment of truth for you to do the right thing at that point. At that point, you said, request denied. You're out of order, Mr. Jeffries. This is a sad day for the board, and this isn't easy for anyone, but your unethical behavior during that meeting and prior to that meeting, which you'll hear shortly, calls me or compels me to ask for your immediate resignation, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So you heard what he said. There was text messaging going on between the chairman, Fervier, and one of the members, Jeffers, who was absent from the meeting. And by being absent from the meeting, it allowed certain things not to be decided upon. We'll talk about those in a couple of minutes. But here, we actually were able to obtain, with the help of Joe Rossi and Kevin Moncla, we actually have the actual text messages that he was referring to. And I've blown them up so we can see them a little bit better. So Rick Jeffers calls into the meeting and says, vote on, I'm even having trouble reading this. I need my glasses apparently these days. Bear with me for a second. So votes on Jan's motion failed for lack of a second. Lindsay moved to finish later, and then says something about do it. And then Jeffers says, Jan's wanting me to call in. And then what time do you expect this to, what time do you think it will be over? And then Jeffers sends a picture of a cocktail or something. And then I don't think you want any part of this is sent by the chairman. Okay, I'll call in if you want me to is sent by Jeffers. And then Jeffers sends he must have then read the note coming in from Fervier that said, I don't think you want any part of this, gives a thumbs up. And then the chairman says, can I call you later? Clearly, apparently not interested in having Jeffers into the meeting. Now, why would this be? Well, if you recall, Jan Johnston had made the motion that they take action. They begin an investigation, into what was going on with Fulton County and the ballots and all the information they were not able to obtain. And she made certain motions to try to put this, put force behind this, and she didn't get a second, and it couldn't move forward. Now, if Jeffers had been in the room, it would have been very difficult for him because he appears to have been, and probably playing a role now, we see, appears to have been positioned as he's a support for Jan Johnston's motions. And now it appears that he's working in the background with the chairman to do what the chairman's bidding is. Now, how many other people are in the background of this? Well, ultimately, if we recall, what happened was there was a decision, if you will, to jointly put forth a committee to, or a group to be able to monitor Fulton County's elections. And it was supposed to be jointly approved between Fulton County and the state election board. What ultimately happened following this meeting that you saw these text messages come from, Ryan Germany, remember Ryan Germany? Involved with Brad Raffensperger back during the 2020 elections? Ryan Germany puts together a proposal to monitor the elections in Fulton County, gives that apparently to Chairman Fervier, and without going to the state election board, Chairman Fervier takes this directly to Fulton County. Oh, here's your recommendation as to what to do to monitor your elections. Again, without going through the state election board process. Not supposed to do that. It smacks of what we just got through talking about, which is where, these chairmen do things that they don't have the power to do. He's not supposed to be acting without the guidance and authority of the state election board. So very, very interesting that he would do these things. And then if you recall, there were lots of questions around why in the heck would Fulton be picking this? And again, they kept delaying meetings and decisions to the point where they really ran out of time, and Fulton ended up having to accept the proposal because they didn't have time to get any other proposals in front of them.
Oh, that was the whole point, obviously.
Probably. Since that time, we have had reports of continued delays and lapses in holding meetings. I don't know that they're even holding meetings monthly yet. They might be, but for a period of time, I received direct information that they were not even holding monthly meetings for the state election board. Why? Well, we just got through hearing that there were complaints that cases were piling up and not getting addressed. Why? Well, if you don't have meetings, you can't address cases. You can't address issues.
You can't fix the elections.
So who calls the meetings? The chairman does. And if no meetings are being held, well, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
Now there's also another the text messages I just showed you were the result of an open records request. There was another text message that came out of this effort that is very, very interesting. And let's take a look at this. This is a set of an exchange, if you will, between this Mike, I believe it's pronounced Cohen, and Jordy Fuchs. Jordy Fuchs was the Deputy Secretary of State. And you'll recall that her name has surrounded that office going back into 2020 and perhaps before. And so it's very interesting. And in this exchange, she sends to Mike Cohen, who is he's a leader for economic development for Barrow County, is the way he's listed in LinkedIn. He's a politician here in the state of Georgia. And so, just another one of the politicians floating around all these doings. And Jordan Fuchs sends a note. It says, "You apparently never gave my gift to John. Please kindly give it to Alex and it will be returned to me." Alex who? Well, we're not sure. Might be Alex Kaufman, perhaps, or some other Alex. We don't know. But isn't it interesting that Jordan Fuchs was sending some sort of a gift to John? And in this case, we are led to believe that this might be John Fervier, We don't know again. So how this all plays out, how these pieces fit, not sure yet. But it is very interesting to see Secretary of State apparently keeping a finger on what's going on in the state election board, or apparently trying to. Okay, let's go back to some of the other reporting on what's going on here with the state election board. Here's a post from one of our good friends, Kevin Monkla. And Kevin Monkla, you'll recall, worked and is continuing to work very closely with Joe Rossi and others. He's been involved in election integrity along with the rest of the key people here in Georgia, going back now 5 years, perhaps more, and was part and parcel of the SEB case that was not fully investigated because of this gyrations of these text messages going back and forth. So he put out a very interesting video today that helps people understand what in the heck is going on and why are these people, quote unquote, moving heaven and earth to prevent SEB 2023-025, the case we've been talking about between the put forth by Kevin Monkla and Joe Rossi, from being investigated. Maybe those elected officials were not really elected. Interesting comment. Let's take a look at what Kevin put forth.
Persistence, and then to push it forward with the election board, despite the best efforts of the Secretary of State and the various chairmen to essentially sweep it under the rug.
Today, the State Board of Elections met again, and this time those three pit bulls took another eyebrow-raising action, voting to ask the state attorney general to reopen an investigation into how Fulton County handled the 2020 election. The sole Democratic member of the Georgia Board of Elections
looked into Fulton County.
I'm going to pause this right here. This woman is Sarah Gazal. She is one of the members of the state election board. She has served a period of time with the Carter Center, and she actually, on one of her documents that she has posted, talks about helping the elections in Rwanda. Now, recall that many other writings about Rwanda have indicated that they, in past years, have had some of the most corrupt elections anywhere in the world. So, interesting. Let's go back to what she has to say here.
Probably a half a dozen times in different complaints, different issues.
Again, we didn't conclude anything with respect to that. We could not conclusively state whether or not that was.
Great. That still doesn't answer the question.
I'm admittedly not a technical expert.
So an unanswered question.
Yeah, so that's not part of this investigation, and maybe Fulton County can shed more light on your question, but that was not part of this investigation.
The latest complaint was related to a batch of ballots, 3,000 ballots or so, that was double scanned, which Fulton County admitted to.
Question of double counting of votes. Fulton County admitted that. And that's a serious violation of Georgia law and federal law. It's not even recorded in the letter of reprimand.
There was a mistake made, and they were double scanned.
It's about the proper counting of votes. It seems to me that somebody is moving heaven and earth to not allow anyone to get to the paper ballots. I don't know why.
So it did not affect the outcome.
The missing 17,852 ballot images, the 3,125 duplicated recount votes, and the missing documents proving that 10 scanners containing 20,713 votes were legally used at early voting sites during the election as listed in the complaint.
And there were some tabulator tapes missing from some of the scanners that were used in the early voting.
I'd love to find proof that those 10 tabulators were actually used.
But the issue here is this was investigated exhaustively.
An exhaustive investigation. We have spent hundreds of man hours on it. As counsel for Fulton County reported, they have been very cooperative. They have spent hundreds of man hours.
And we disposed of the case with a letter of reprimand and a sort of a gentleman's agreement to try to come up with a monitoring team.
Voted on by 2 members of the board on May 7th, 2024. Mr. Lindsay emphasized that the monitor should be a mutually agreeable monitor and that the agreement be reached by July 9th. The offer was not satisfied and Fulton County is not compliant with the terms of
an independent monitoring team who would be in place to monitor the 2024 elections to make sure that the sorts of mistakes that we saw in 2020 don't recur in 2024.
Is there audio missing from that?
It isn't missing. Let me jump forward a little bit and see if we can. There we go. That particular part of the thing seemed to have a problem.
But this case was disposed of in May. And that is the end of the story.
It's double jeopardy for criminal cases. It's res judicata for civil cases where you can't be tried twice for the same thing. Fulton County's been tried. Fulton County's been tried. Fulton County's been heard by this board. This board ruled on that on May the 7th.
It's just for clarity. When was the Fulton County trial?
I'm sorry.
When was the Fulton County trial? You said it's already been tried.
I said the case was adjudicated. The case.
No, you said it was tried in Fulton County.
Fulton County's been tried. I don't recall saying it was tried in Fulton County. I said the case was adjudicated.
Okay, so there hasn't been a trial.
We can't reopen a case that's been closed.
the state election board determines if and when an investigation is concluded.
The amount of times I've been told not to do something because we could possibly be sued. I mean, if we were doing a drinking game, we would all be drunk. Like at this point, it's almost, I feel like we got to make sure we're not utilizing or not scared to make moves because of the fear of that, because in some cases, it's just the right thing to do.
So what the election board has done with the 3 courageous members is to reopen it and send it to the Attorney General to investigate. But it's possible, even perhaps likely, that it will go there and die. The Attorney General represents the governor. The Attorney General represents the Secretary of State. They do not appear to want any of this stuff to be investigated.
Once again, I caution this board on their actions. Make sure that the Attorney General is aware of that.
Really abusive uses of government power to silence people who are raising legitimate questions about whether these elections are being done properly. And we know that in Fulton County in 2020, it was not.
Okay, let's go back to the question that we posed at the beginning of the show. Does Trump and his team know what's going on in Georgia? Well, recall one of the comments that he made just over a week ago. He's talking about election integrity. He goes, oh, and I sure hope they get down to those Fulton ballots. Fulton ballots. Mm-hmm. So for those in Georgia, those that have been working so hard, does he know? I bet my bottom dollar that he and his team know all too well what's going on here in Georgia, and that should give the bad guys some food for thought this evening. I think they know exactly what's going on and have pulled in people now. Kurt Olson has been pulled into the administration, is my understanding. And Kurt Olson has been involved in an attorney involved in election integrity cases around the country, and a person that I hope will bring expertise, more expertise, to the Trump administration, and so they can learn even more. But there are people acting now that I believe will be heard and heard loud and clear about what's happened and what hasn't happened here in Georgia. So this should get very interesting in due course. How long? I don't know. We're not able to answer that as we sit here tonight. But the very fact that these things are going on, I think, bodes well for the future. Let's put it that way. We have one more election integrity story to go into. Do you want to take a break in between, or shall we?
Yeah, we'll just run a couple ads and be right back.
Okay.
So here we go.
Can I ask a question about the nicotine pouches?
Yes.
Does it melt in your mouth, or do you have to spit it out later?
You can spit it out, you can swallow it, or you just savor it. I mean, you throw it in like you would a dip of tobacco.
Okay.
But you just let it sit there and then it suffuses your nervous system with life-giving nicotine. And it really does feel like the hand of God is massaging you.
But does it feel like the high of smoking a cigarette?
It's simultaneously, if you can imagine the Zen paradox, higher alertness accompanied by deep relaxation.
Wow.
So you really are, it's a Zen experience. You're like cat-like in your readiness, but you're fully
And how long does it last?
I always have one going. Sometimes if things are, if I need it, I'll put another one in. So I've got 18 milligrams of nicotine, but that gives me an unfair advantage.
You're banging 18 milligrams? Woo. That's impressive.
I don't like to, because everybody else kind of recedes into the background and I become this kind of colossus.
I'm a naturopathic doctor. We are in the world of medicine very acquainted with many modalities, but probably the one most familiar with everybody would be two things: homeopathy and herbs, maybe some nutrients too, vitamins, minerals, that kind of thing. Now, we do know a lot about the drugs because we have to find out what drug you're taking affects you and what nutrient it depletes you of, because most every drug pharmacy product will deplete something. So we have been trained and we have a database that we can check into that says this is going to take your B12 away. The pharmaceutical company cannot patent organic substances made by the body. You're not born short of Advil. You're not born short of Ritalin.
Yeah.
You can be born short of insulin, right?
Mm-hmm.
The answers to staying healthy and keeping away from even SARS or any of those things getting into you is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get sick because our terrain gets out of balance. Well, that's the same thing in the soil. You and I are made from this thing called dirt. And when we get out of balance, we have the same thing happen. Weeds start to grow in our body. Right? And that's what we want in our body. We want nutrients that we don't understand how to get well enough yet, because our suppliers are lacking knowledge on nutrient density foods.
So this is what drove you to develop this, was your knowledge of this, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
So two things: NucleoBoost at cdmnutrition.com. As he said, balance your body at the cellular level. It does that. Check out the subscription monthly. It's cheaper. And CDM Alp. If you've ordered Alp from us before, please change the URL you're ordering from to CDM Alp. The old one is no longer working. Back to you, Bill.
Okay, so a couple more things before we move on from election integrity. Here's a letter from Marjorie Taylor Greene to bear with me for a second so I can pull this over again. My eyes are getting old these days. To the Assistant Director, Office of Congressional Affairs, Federal Bureau of Investigation. And she is asking for an investigation into the Georgia's elections, specifically who the Secretary of State's office in Fulton County may be dealing with and what are the issues there. So this is getting quite serious. We're getting into the FBI being asked to investigate some of this stuff. Notably, there's also been testimony that has gone before the Blue Ribbon Committee that was formed to try to, I think, satisfy public opinion. But all of a sudden, they've got hard data that's been provided to them by Field Searcy. Now, you'll recall that Field Searcy and Sam Carnline are founders of Georgians for Truth. And earlier this week, we were lucky enough to get a copy of a publication that Field had put out and put it in the Georgia Record. And here it is. And the title is Error Rate 172,543 times too high. Georgia election systems under fire. So I wanted to take a few minutes and explain this. It's not complicated to grasp, but it's important because this is hard data that the Blue Ribbon Committee now has in hand, and it really should compel them to take certain action. So let's take a look at this. Most people who have voted in Georgia will recall that you go through the ballot marking process, and then it prints out a physical page for you. You walk over to something called a tabulator. The person has you slide it into the tabulator, and then it counts it, it tabulates it, and stores your choices, supposedly, in its memory. One of the things that it creates in the process of this is something called a slog file, S-L-O-G. And that slog file indicates the outcome of every operation that goes through this tabulator, including if there's any errors. And so what this process did that was completed for Grady County, they scanned 10,768 total ballots. Ballot is the entire page of choices. And 366,112 ballot positions, about 34 per ballot. And it went through, they talk about how they did it and which scanners and in which precincts and so forth. Out of that amount, now there's federal guidelines that say how many errors should occur as things are being scanned. And if you simply recall this, there's supposed to be no more than one error in 10 million ballot positions. Ballot position is a single choice. The error rate that they found was dramatically higher. The report that they produced, that they gave to the Blue Ribbon Committee, showed 6,317 machine logged errors across 4 categories, affecting 58.66% of all ballots somewhere. So again, the federal target error rate is 1 error in 10 million ballot positions, choices. The observed rate was 1 error in 58 positions, 172,000 times higher than the Election Assistance Commission target that's published. How could that possibly be? So the Blue Ribbon Committee now has this in hand, and this is the way it looks. Now, this isn't to scale, but it's meant to communicate the summary of the problem. The problem is there should be a very low error rate. In fact, there's a very high error rate. And so Field Cersei delivered the report, presented it to the Blue Ribbon Committee, and the path forward that they are asking for is to investigate the 2024 and 2025 elections statewide with a particular focus on precinct level slogs. Again, that's the file that's created by the tabulator as it scans things, and QR code handling behaviors. Require evidence of conformity with the EAC performance thresholds, the 1 in 10 million. Consider operational mitigations, expanded parallel testing, real-time anomaly detection, and contingency workflows for precincts that encounter QR-related errors. So if errors are found, need to look into it. Evaluate alternatives that honor Georgia's constitutional requirements and maximize public verifiability up to and including hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots where practical and procedurally sound. Keep in mind what the president has called for. He's called for hand-marked paper ballots, hand counting, single-day voting, voter ID, citizenship. So again, do we think that the president knows what's going on? Well, interestingly, today, he must know that we were going on air tonight, because today this was published. And let's hear what he has to say. Oh, I have to take the other one down first, I guess. Hang on just a moment. Okay.
about doing away with mail-in ballots and potentially electronic voting machines. Can you explain on that? How?
Well, that's a very off-topic. Just really quickly, mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And you know that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place. The other thing we want change are the machines. For all of the money they spend, it's approximately 10 times more expensive than paper ballots. And paper ballots are very sophisticated with the watermark paper and everything else. We would get secure elections. We'd get much faster results. The machines, I mean, they say we're going to have the results in 2 weeks. With paper ballots, you have the results that night. Most people, many countries use paper ballots. It's the most secure form. So between paper ballots, very, very important, paper ballots, and I think maybe even more important, the mail-in voting. We're going to end mail-in voting. It's a fraud. If you have mail-in vote, even Jimmy Carter with this commission, they set it up. He said the one thing about mail-in voting, you will never have an honest election if you have mail-in. And it's time that the Republicans get tough.
So does that sound like someone that understands the issues we have with machines, not just here in Georgia, but around the country? It sure does to me. All right. One more time to the question that we posed at the beginning of the show. Does Trump know what's going on in Georgia? Well, one more piece of data that I think bodes well for this. Bear with me for a second. Let me pull this up. So today, Trump talked about, or it was reported that Trump's first in-person fundraiser of the 26th cycle will be for Lindsey Graham. Holy mackerel. Wasn't it Lindsey Graham that during the complaints and the congressional consideration of the electors said, I've had it. I can't stand with this. I'm not going to uphold this objection. We're going to move forward. Yes, it was. And yet Trump's going to hold a fundraiser for him? Seems very odd. Is there a reason why Trump does some of these things to bring out people into the foreground? Perhaps that's what happened when McCoon got his endorsement from President Trump, because he didn't endorse him for the Georgia Republican Party. He endorsed him, as you see here, for the George Republican Party. Typo? Well, anybody that posts know that you can fix a typo in 10 seconds. George Republican Party. Got to pay attention to the little things that Trump says, I believe. So why is he supporting Lindsey Graham? I don't know. But I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to trust that they have a plan and it's running. So, all right. We talked about the fact that people are reporting some great stuff now. We've, in the past, followed Nick Sorter. And today he published some very interesting things. We'd recommend, looking at time, so we'd recommend you go take a look at Nick Sorter's posts on Twitter. He outed one of the, we'll call it a safe house. We're going to show this in the next show. And we're going to show a parallel between something that he uncovered and something we saw right here in Georgia back last year. And the reaction and how similar they are. The other gentleman is a gentleman by the name of Nate Friedman, and he is reporting on who these people really are that are running, these protests. And recall that we have seen that this is being funded. We heard that this is part of something they're calling Riot Inc. And who are these people and what are they doing? Well, here's Nate catching people on the street, and then he's going to tell you who they really are.
Yeah, no,
What's that?
No, we're good. No, but I don't know.
Oh no, I'm just press asking questions.
I think, no. But no, it's, I don't know.
Okay, so they had a full panic and just talked over each other. Now, this woman did the scripted right-wing troll line, which I guess they must have forgotten to pick up their signs because that's exactly what they did to me last time. And before that, a different paid protester with the exact same sign followed me around the Take Down Tesla protest. So who are these people really? Keep watching.
I'm here to marshal and keep people safe. That's my job here today, and I'm just going to do my job.
What do you mean by marshal?
We help traffic. We help people with the traffic. We help cars redirect. We help bike messengers.
Okay.
We're helping people be safe on the streets.
Does that mean you guys are working with the NYPD?
Yes, we talk to them.
Oh, okay. I did not know that. That's interesting. But is there a briefing before that you guys work with the
NYPD?
Yeah.
No.
So how do they know that you're out there marshaling with them?
They're not blind.
And neither am I. This is you calling ICE thugs, and with a $50,000 bounty on ICE agents, you have blood on your hands. This is you taking it a step further and calling them the Gestapo. Back again at a different protest, and again and again. The company she works for is Rise and Resist. They are one of the nonprofits receiving a portion of the $7.6 million from George Soros and were responsible for the takedown Tesla protests that often resulted in vandalism. They claim that all of their events are non-violent, which is odd because there's hundreds of pictures of their protesters getting arrested. One of the things they love to do is organize sit-ins at Trump Tower, and they're politely escorted out of the building and released from custody almost instantly, which means that the supposed king is quite forgiving with people trespassing his family's home. The donation link to Rise and Resist goes straight through Act Blue. Now it's really her associates that are the star players on the protesting field. Watch this. You see her? She works with Karen Shaw, the kazoo lady from the previous No Kings rally. This is her making the signs for Rise and Resist in their little print shop. Yes, I'm looking into this print shop. She protests whatever is on the schedule. Back again in front of the courthouse asking to abolish ICE, which is to take the sides of the vicious, violent criminals that have been deported by ICE. She wants to, quote, free them all, and she's doing this sit-in again inside of Trump's family home. The president is very aware of paid protesting now. Now I saved the best for last with this group because look at this guy here. Meet Casimir Yanish. He is a professional protester. Here he is with the infamous Karen Kazoo lady. You know how they frequently work in teams. Now, what is concerning about this guy in particular is not just that he is a professional protester, but that he is an election worker. His official start date was January 2020. According to his LinkedIn, he is a director of architecture and engineering at New York City. And according to governorsalaries.com, he's receiving an annual wage of $121,000. The question is he protesting on the taxpayer's dime? Casimir took part in the famous paid protester group photo that I've exposed. See the Karen Kazoo lady here? And of course Stuart Waldman, who was on the board of Rise and Resist. Casimir had no social media that I could find, but here he is on his friend's Instagram, and he's clearly labeled in the caption. According to Casimir's LinkedIn, he is also a Columbia University alum, and here he is at an alumni event. Casimir has donated to a fund that was established to provide legal assistance and financial support to those who get arrested at protests. So he's spending his money wisely, and as a graduate of Columbia, I'm sure he's proud of what his alma mater is up to these days. Next up, I ran into a woman with a guillotine poster at the peaceful protest.
So you can see that these folks are, some people are referring to them as paid. Anna Paulina Luna has another take, and she posted this earlier. Actually, she has several. This is one of them, and it says the No Kings protest was completely organic. She's being sarcastic. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And then she posts this spreadsheet with dozens of line items totaling well over $200 million that has been contributed to support this activity by all these different organizations, going to all these different organizations. So this is not what we are told, what some would wish that we see it to be. This is a professionally organized and well-funded set of activities in key cities to try to drive a narrative. And we're going to see probably, unfortunately, more of it. But the more of us that understand exactly what we're looking at, we get to understand what these people and who these people really are. And it's not quite comedic, but it almost gets comedic a little bit. Let's see. Any last thoughts before we play this last little video clip from Trump, Todd?
No, that's it. Great show. Thank you.
Okay, let me see if I can pull this up, if I've got it. Bear with you for just a moment. There we go. So the president met with officials from Australia this week, and as part of that meeting, somebody had some feedback apparently in the past that was not very positive about Trump, and it actually got asked about by one of the Australian reporters during the meeting. So we thought we'd show you what happened. It's actually pretty interesting.
Australia, that it's taken 9 months to get this meeting. Have you had any concerns with this administration, with its stance on Palestine, climate change, or even things the ambassador said about you in the past, the Australian ambassador?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, if he said bad, then maybe he'll like to apologize. I really don't know. Did an ambassador say something bad about me? Don't tell me. I don't know. Where is he? Is he still working for you?
Yeah.
You said bad?
Before I took this position, Mr. President.
I don't like you either. I don't, and I probably never will. Go ahead. No, you went. Go ahead, behind you.
I'll give him this. He is as entertaining as any president in memory. So God bless him. All right. That's it, Todd.
Well, great show. We'll see you Sunday at 2 p.m. on the Georgia Show. Stick with us.
Sounds good. Thanks for being with us.